Greetings to all in attendance. I am Jared Johnson, the Jared J. Joining me today is a first time guest to the channel. We met working for an established fast food restaurant. That's a story for another day. Please welcome my friend and first time guest to the channel, Dillon Jewett.
That's the name. That's me.
That is the name. His government name may be Dillon Jewett, but if you know him like I do, he's Diligent Jewett. So if you hear me
That's
say
correct.
Diligent, you're gonna know why now. Yeah, we've been friends for about 5.5, 6 years now. I think that's how long ago
Yeah.
that we
Yep.
met working together. And we're gonna be here talking a little bit about the National Football League, specifically recapping the 2025 draft. We're not going to go pick by pick for 7 rounds because I don't know if anybody would really watch all that. I mean, the two of us really could do that if we had the
Yeah.
time,
Yeah, for
but we're
sure.
gonna stick to a few select players. So, Diligent, I'll jump right in with the number one overall pick, the Tennessee Titans taking quarterback from the University of Miami, Cameron Ward. Do you think this was a good pick for Tennessee? Is it a good landing spot for Cameron Ward?
Yeah, no, I'm a big Cam Ward fan. I've been a big Cam Ward fan for a long time. I was actually one of the first on the scene. So I'm really rooting for this guy
That's official
because
too. It's officially documented. He's
yeah,
one of the first Cameron
it
Ward fans.
it is officially documented back when he was back at Incarnate Word. He actually played before that in high school. He played 7-man football. So he
Wow,
has
I did not know that.
7 or 8-man football. I don't know what they do down there, but in West
Yeah.
Columbia, Texas. But uh yeah, he's a great player, and this is someone that is going to fit the kind of Jordan Love mold where you're looking at someone who's
Mm.
kind of a gunslinger. He has a flexible arm that can um really fit some passes into tight windows. Um he's going to be a little bit of a work in progress up front. I think. I don't think
Yeah.
this is going to be someone that's going to be plug and play, and all of a sudden you're going to get high caliber quarterback play. Obviously, that's
Right.
not abnormal for a rookie quarterback, but
Rarely you
um,
do with a rookie. I'm wearing the shirt of a guy
absolutely,
that does fit that mold,
yeah,
but rarely are you going to get a
rarely,
rookie on day
yeah,
one that plays like Jaden
yeah.
Daniels. I
You're
mean,
not going to get a CJ Stroud or a Dak
right.
Prescott rookie
There's a
season
reason
out of
those
everyone.
guys were that
Yeah,
they're talked about on that level. So,
yeah, very much so. But I so as big of a fan of Cam Ward as I was, I feel like it's pretty clear that he got a significant quarterback premium in this draft, going number one. Very talented player, but if you compare this quarterback class to past, even last year, he probably makes it out of there at, man, probably like
would he have been a first round pick last year even?
I
Maybe,
I'd say he would have,
possibly.
but
Yeah.
it would have been it would have been, he would have been what I'd say QB four
At
or
the
five.
earliest four, because he would have been
Yeah,
after Williams,
exactly.
Daniels, and Drake May. So at the
Correct.
earliest QB4, which is still
Yeah,
not bad company to be in.
absolutely. Yeah. But in recent classes, he would have not been the first overall selection like he was this
No.
year. But yeah, I'm a big fan of him, and I think that he's going to be able to have some success in due time. I think the problem with the Titans right now is they're
A lot of
just such a
things.
mess. Yeah, a lot of things. They're such a mess, and there's a reason that they were picking first overall. I'm also
Always
curious
is.
about Will Levis sitting there on the depth chart. I
Is he
figured
going to
that they
get a
would
chance
be.
with another team, or what's going to
Yeah,
happen with him?
that's
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking is they would think about, offloading him for a late round draft pick, but he's still
Yeah.
sitting there, and I'm not, I don't want to bash anyone's character, but I'm not the hugest fan of him sitting there as a backup to a rookie quarterback. He's not the high character guy that teams look for, in that particular position as a
How
backup.
much
So
good will he do, Cameron Ward? I don't
exactly.
know.
Exactly. I don't know if he's going to push him, and I'm kind of curious if there's going to be a little bit of a ego clash there, but we'll see.
When you have a quarterback who believes they should be the starter and now they
Yeah.
aren't and somebody else coming in, it's hard for those dynamics to work. It just is. But yeah, I think
Absolutely.
Ward has a lot of potential. I'm with you. I don't think he's going to set the world on fire right away. I think you got to
Mhm.
build that offense around him, so it'll take some time. But I think the mental processing seems to be pretty good. The athleticism is not Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels level, but
Yeah,
he's
it's
mobile.
it's still
He
pretty
makes
good.
good
Yeah, he's very
decisions.
mobile. Yeah,
I think there's a chance he could be a pretty good NFL quarterback,
I
honestly.
agree.
And it was obvious that he was the number one pick. Tennessee did nothing in the offseason to address
Yeah,
the quarterback position. And I'm not saying they should have, but Kirk Cousins, as of this recording, still on the Falcons. They didn't sign Darnold, Justin Fields, Russell Wilson. And again, not saying they should have, but when they didn't do any of those things, you knew exactly who they were drafting number one.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think odds are that if this pick doesn't pan out with Cam Ward, I feel like it's more likely something that I'll end up blaming on the Titans as opposed to the player. So because whenever you're looking at this depth chart and your top three receivers are Tyler Lockett, Calvin Ridley, and Van Jefferson.
Yeah, you can stop right
Sheesh.
there and say you haven't built that
Yeah,
position.
you
You
haven't.
got two
This
pretty
is
good running backs, but if they both stay healthy, but
yeah.
yeah, when you got
They did
two
not
guys, when
prepare
your
for
best
him.
receivers are 30 or pushing 30, and they
Yeah,
aren't Mike Evans and Devontae Adams, there's some things that need to be addressed.
exactly, absolutely.
All right, so number two overall, we had Travis Hunter, Jacksonville Jaguars. They moved up from the number five spot. They gave up pretty good draft capital, future draft capital, to get to the number two spot. Clearly, they thought Travis Hunter was worth doing that for. How do you feel? You think he's worth moving up
Um,
for? Do you think
yeah.
that was a good move?
So I'm a huge Travis Hunter fan, as are many. I know that ultimately when it came down to it, it almost became uncool to sit there and say that Travis Hunter was the best player in the
It
draft for some reason. As much as I love
became
Abdul
too
Carter,
obvious and too cliche and
it,
all
it
that.
did
Yeah.
very much so. But and as much as I love Abdul Carter, who ended up, at one point in time kind of challenging Travis Hunter for that role as the best player in this draft,
My
Travis
opinion,
Hunter,
it's those two. I can't.
yeah,
They're different players, but I'm with you.
absolutely.
Those two
But
guys overall were the best two players in this draft. I think.
yeah, no doubt. But what I love about Travis Hunter is you have two chances here with him.
Yeah,
I think that they're gonna test him out in OTAs and try and see what they ultimately want to end up doing.
where is
It,
he best, and what does the team need the most?
exactly.
That's what you
The
got to
depth
figure out.
chart is more needy at receiver, I'd say. So I think they're going to give him a first
Their
crack at
passing
receiver.
defense was pretty terrible last year too, though.
Yeah,
So
but they
he could
did
help
add
them either place.
Jordan Lewis though, who's in my opinion, I'm
True.
a little biased as a Cowboys fan, but this is also one of the better nickel corners in the league. You're gonna
He
move,
is. Yeah.
yeah, you're gonna move some pieces here, and Tyson Campbell is a really good player there on the boundary. Probably move Jerry and Jones out to the boundary with him. So I feel like they're gonna probably set it up so Travis Hunter starts off at receiver, but we've talked about this before, Jared. I think it's going to be 75-25. It's split in that end.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be starting off at wide receiver, whatever happens,
And
happens.
yeah,
Yeah.
he could be, in my opinion, and we could do a whole episode on Travis Hunter, and maybe at some point we will. He could be a Pro Bowl receiver. I think he's got the talent. I think
Yeah.
he could be a Pro Bowl corner. Question is, how are they going to utilize him? There's a lot of talk of, oh, they're saying they're going to put him at receiver right away. Great.
Yeah.
Brian Thomas Jr. is phenomenal. If you want to put Travis Hunter out there and he's just a receiver, forget what he did in college, they could use that.
Absolutely.
You
Yeah.
give Trevor Lawrence those two weapons, third year tight
Yeah.
end Brenton Strange, who I think is a pretty darn good player.
Hmm.
That can work. My
Yeah.
opinion, if you want to use him both ways, I think he should primarily play corner. It's just
Yeah.
too
He's
complex
better at
to
corner
go to
too,
all
also, in my opinion.
these position
Yeah.
meetings all week long, and you're going
Hmm.
to have him running routes and doing all this for half the game, and then ask him to go shut down Justin Jefferson
Yeah.
in the third quarter. No, I'm sorry, Travis Hunter. That's unrealistic for anybody. You're setting the guy up for
Yeah.
failure by doing that. So I think the stronger choice is maybe full time corner, and
Yeah.
then put him out there for 10 plays a game on offense. If he makes two or three big plays a game, which he's capable of doing, you got a huge bonus as a weapon you can work into the passing game.
Yeah.
That's my thought, but hey, we'll see what
Hmm.
happens.
I'll tell you what though, if I'm Travis Hunter, I want more time at receiver than corner. For a multitude of reasons. I
Yeah,
mean, obviously receiver is an easier position, but the money's at the receiver position. You're getting
that's
more
I was
money
gonna
playing wide
say.
receiver, and you're going
You
to get
look at
more
the
attention. You're going to get more
contracts.
love. You're going to get more, all of the whole Coach Prime kind of narrative type of aspect.
Yeah,
Where Travis is a great dude in my opinion. I think he's a high character type of guy. But I can tell someone who wants wants attention when I see it, and this is the type of player that would chase that, and he would chase those extra bucks, and I don't blame him for it. So, but yeah, I think that like defensively, he at his best is prime Jair Alexander,
mm.
potentially better.
I
But
could. Yeah, I was gonna say I could see potentially
yeah,
a little better, but yeah,
yeah. And then Garrett Wilson on offense, with higher ceilings on both of those. I think until he settles in predominantly into one position, though, those are probably what his
yes, you're
ceiling
gonna
is.
get maybe half of that if he doesn't
Exactly.
settle in. Yeah,
Exactly. But my ultimate synopsis of this move is you have a new GM in Jacksonville, James Gladstone.
yeah.
He's also a young buck. This is I think he's 32. And he
Is he
looks like
that
it.
young? He's a
Yeah.
general manager. Wow.
Yeah. So hang on, let me confirm that. I think he's 32 to 35, something like that. He definitely looks like he's like even younger. He's 34. So I think what he wanted to do, he wanted to go out there, make a splash move, and look back and say, "Yeah, my first move as GM,
This was
in the
my first
draft
move. I'm the one that did
is
this.
exactly." He wanted to.
Hey,
He
you're
wanted to
rolling the
make that move,
dice. It works or it
and
doesn't, but you're gonna find out. Yeah.
yeah. But if you're gonna roll the dice on anyone in this class, it's
Travis
Travis
Hunter.
Hunter.
Yes. Yeah.
So he moved some pieces, and yeah, he paid a lot to do that. But I think a lot of that just had to,
It could pay off though. I mean,
exactly. It just had to do with the fact that he wants to look back. He wants to say, yeah, this is the first move I did. This is how I, got this new era of Jacksonville football started.
yeah.
As Jacksonville is going into a new chapter, they have, they have so many question marks. You have the young quarterback still, and Trevor Lawrence, who we don't know what he is yet. Is he going to be this
We still
superstar? Is
don't.
he just
Yeah.
this average Joe, like a Kirk Cousins? And
Or
I think they're
less.
trying
I
to,
mean, is he
yeah,
just
yeah. So I think they're trying to work out and see what they can do to make Trevor Lawrence as comfortable as possible.
yeah.
And
Give him as many
yeah,
opportunities to succeed as you
yeah.
can.
And a Brian Thomas, Travis Hunter stack. That's
That's a
beautiful in
deadly
my
duo
opinion.
over. Well, yeah. I mean,
Multiple different
that's
flavors there and
yeah.
of wide
There's
receiver.
a lot of potential. Brian Thomas, and I don't want to get too far off, but that dude had such a great rookie year. So they got a
Oh
lot
yeah.
to build on there. Now you
Hmm.
mentioned Abdul Carter, so let's talk about him next. Soon as Travis, I didn't know if Jacksonville was trading up for Hunter or Carter. I was like, either one of them be worth it, in my opinion, to trade up for. Because if we wait to number 5, you're not getting
Yeah.
either one of them. As soon as Travis Hunter got picked, I said, well, obviously, I know who the Giants are. If I'm the
Yeah.
Giants, there's no question. Now that
Hmm.
Travis Hunter's off the board, there's no chance I'm passing on Abdul Carter. Uh, I see Abdul Carter as potentially a perennial Pro Bowler. He can wreck another team's offense. Big, strong,
Yeah.
athletic. That guy he was just a beast at Penn State. I think as you and I are both fans of NFC teams that are not the New York Giants, I don't really like the fact that one of my favorite players is now going to be running from Abdul Carter twice a year.
Yeah.
But hey, Abdul, he's a heck of a football player. What do you think about that?
Uh, I mean, just look at the what was it, the Notre Dame playoff game?
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
oh my gosh. Is I mean, uh he had a undisclosed shoulder injury, and he's sitting there with one arm, just long arming around the corner, around the edge of the pocket, and just wreaking havoc. And I think that's just a full blown testament of what he is, toughness wise, what his motor is,
Mhm.
and just his overall skill level, and the fact that athletically he's able to compensate with literally down is the second most important part of his body, uh
It
rushing off
speaks to how
the
bad
left
he wants
side.
to be on the field and how what
Yeah,
he's willing
it
to do.
does. Yeah, and but no, yeah, this is a very impressive player, and I mean everyone has said this since the beginning of, honestly, last, before this time last year. um he's Micah Parsons. He's a
You can't deny the
you
comparisons.
can't
It's
deny it. He
too
even looks,
obvious.
if even if you pull up a picture and put them side by side, you're like, this is
That's
the
his
same
brother,
guy.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And say basically same measurables. Abdul's a little smaller than Micah, not
Yeah, but
quite
we're
as strong as
talking
Micah.
minuscule differences. Yeah.
Very, very minuscule
Speed,
differences,
overall
and
athleticism, the
speed
power
overall. Yep.
is, yeah.
Yeah, it's very similar. And he, he wore he wore 11 and went to Penn State.
Yeah.
Started off as a linebacker, moves to edge rusher
It's
eventually, and
literally like we're telling the
drafted
same
by an
story.
NFC
Yeah.
team. It's remarkable how similar these two players are. Even, I mean, this isn't a great thing, something to be proud of, but they even have some off the field problems going in from college to the NFL, which I'm just like,
Right.
these guys are literally the same human being.
Positives and
Um,
negatives, they're just that
pause
similar.
for better or for
Yeah.
worse, are the same human being. And but yeah, I really love Abdul Carter's game. I think that he's going to have a long, fruitful career. This is someone that ultimately is going to be a top 10 type of defender in the
Oh,
league, I think.
barring some career-ending injury,
Exactly.
yes, I think there's
Or a character, it's either
some
injuries or
off the field
character.
issue that causes him to
Yeah,
miss some time or jail time.
exactly.
Again, we hope that would never happen, but yeah,
Exactly. But
what
yeah,
we're
it's
saying is outside of that, he should be a
absolutely.
dominant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a monster, and I think that with some time, with some coaching, that he's going to be able to settle in and have a really fruitful career. I do one thing that really stood out to me though, whenever they made this move, I was fully expecting them to move on from Kayvon Thibodeau, and
Mhm.
literally about 3 to 5 minutes after making this move of drafting Abdul Carter, like before man, I forget who was picking fourth, what had been Browns.
Uh,
um
no, because Jacksonville traded up from 5. Cleveland had number 5. Who
who was
was
that?
number 4?
It was goodness gracious.
Wasn't
Now
no
it's
Mason Graham went to the Browns. This is sad. I'll watch the draft just a couple
Yeah,
months.
yeah, this is really bad.
I remember who
We're
was
losing
5. I remember who
credibility.
was
It's the
6.
Patriots.
New England, they took
Patriots.
an offensive. Yes,
Yeah,
my
but
goodness.
yeah, even before that selection was made of Will Campbell going fourth overall to New England, the Giants handed Kayvon Thibodeau his fifth year option, and
Mm.
which I found really interesting because Kayvon Thibodeau, he hasn't had the illustrious career that you hope for in someone who went, I believe, third overall, if I'm not
That sounds
mistaking
about
that.
right.
Um, so uh so yeah, I find that really interesting. You go get Abdul Carter, you brought in Brian Burns last year, you brought in Chauncey Golston, who had a good year this past year. Kayvon Thibodeau as well, has been there for a number of years. And yeah, I just find that a little interesting. That's but we've seen teams go 6 players deep at that position, but there's 3 guys in that unit there that are, they want to be number one, and
Well, they could
they
start for most teams. I
they
mean,
would
all
start
of them
for
could. Yeah,
basically
for
any
pretty much
team.
any team.
Yeah. And so I find that odd, because eventually it's not even about the bodies, it's not even about the names, it's about the money there. And
Yeah, you can't
Brian
balance all
Burns
those
is
contracts long
yeah.
term.
Brian Burns is getting a big boy deal there, and perhaps more than he should. You just paid Javon Holland to come over. You just paid Paulson Adebo to come over. Chauncey Gold. So there's a number of guys that they've been working on, bringing in the house, and obviously offensively, brought in 2 quarterbacks through free agency. So Yeah, I just find that slightly odd that financially they're gonna, try and pull that together. But I personally probably would have turned
This is
around
the New
and
York
used,
Giants that we're talking
yeah,
about. They don't always make a lot
yeah.
of sense.
I would have used 34, or like you ended up going back up and getting Jackson Dart. I would have used pick 34 like they did and Kayvon Thibodeau instead of using the 2/3 that they used to be able to move up and get Jackson Dart. And I think they would have done that just fine. And then you can back pocket those
That could
threes,
have
and
worked
if
actually.
you want to go get a replacement, with one of those threes for Thibodeau, to fill out
You've
that edge
got that
rusher depth chart,
flexibility
you
to
got
do
that as
it.
well,
Yeah.
and you can be a lot more financially responsible with that. But yeah,
They didn't consult with us on this, unfortunately. So,
they did not. No, if honestly, I think that if they consulted with anyone, this team would would be a lot better. But it's
that's
been
probably
so
true.
bad since Eli left. Other than one random spurt year with Daniel Jones, what,
Yeah, with Daniel
2022?
Jones and Saquon, but all right,
Yeah,
so now a guy that a lot of people are really high on, that I'm a big fan on, Ashton Jeanty, number 6 to the Raiders. A lot of
yeah,
people like, oh, you just can't take a running back high. You can't take a running back that high. I had two things to say to that. Well, the Falcons took B. John Robinson, number 8, 2 years ago.
yep.
That's turned out pretty good. And number 2, why can't you take a running back that high? There's this weird unwritten rule that's not a premium position. I get it, and I'm not saying I disagree
Mhm.
entirely, but if your team needs a running back and you've got Ashton Jeanty on the board, don't tell me I can't take him at
Yeah.
number 6. If I want the young man fits my team and he's that good, if he's worth taking that high, I don't care if the rest of the
Mhm.
world says you can't take a running back that high. So the guy was just phenomenal in college. I understand the
Yeah.
competition level and all that talk and whatever. My personal feeling, outside of a severe injury, it may take a year or two. I don't know how that Raiders offense is going to gel, although he and Brock Bowers are a great young duo of weapons there. And they did just sign Geno Smith, who's an upgrade at quarterback from what they had. So I think Genty likely, again, barring some career-ending injury, I think the guy could have a legendary career. Like it to me, he reminds
Yeah.
me. Tell me if you disagree. He reminds me kind of a lot of LaDainian Tomlinson. Not the
No,
biggest
yeah, I
guy,
totally see it. Yeah.
quick, elusive. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's got great vision.
Mhm.
Uh, I think this is a great move for the Raiders. What do you
Yeah.
say?
No, yeah, I think the thing there that in your input there that you threw in was that's important is, if he's good enough, if he's that type of player, then then screw the position value.
Forget all this foolishness
Yeah,
of you can't do it.
yeah.
He
If
might
it,
be worth
he
it. Some
Yeah,
players are.
he was the number 3 player on my board, behind
Abdul,
Travis Hunter
Travis
and
Hunter,
Abdul.
or yeah.
So why would I not pick him 6th if I have a need at running back?
I
So
think they would have been mighty foolish not to pick him at number
yeah,
6. I
yeah,
mean,
exactly. This is a matter of, go get the best guy, and
yeah.
they have a decent O line too. I mean, and I love the idea of Ashton Jeanty being able to run behind Jackson Powers Johnson, who I think is a good player who just slipped last year in the draft because of injury concerns.
Mhm.
Um, this is a decent O line who doesn't get a lot of credit for that, but
Well, because they've upgraded that line. If you, I think one
yeah,
reason they don't get a lot of credit, 2 years ago, Josh Jacobs last season,
yeah,
his numbers went way down. His yards per carry
yeah,
went way down. He goes to Green Bay last year and has a really
yeah,
good year. So the talk
hmm,
was, oh, the Raiders' offensive line stinks, and
yeah.
even Zamir White, Alexander Madison, they didn't like nobody looked good
Yeah,
running behind that line.
I think a
So
lot of that's been
that's why
schematic. I think a lot of that's been schematic as opposed to talent or personnel,
talent
in my opinion.
wise.
So I think Genty's gonna hit the ground running. Honestly, I love this pairing for him. I think that you're gonna use a
Hmm.
lot of 12 personnel with this
I mean, you
roster.
got
You have Brock
Michael
Bowers and
Mayer
Michael
and
Mayer.
Brock Bowers, so why not?
That's just about the best tight end duo that you can ask for. And Michael Mayer has a lot of untapped potential. We know what Brock Bowers is. They're both good
Yeah.
blockers, as well, very good blockers as well. Um, I like the idea of using, if using Brock Bowers as a lead blocker, pulling with him, crack blocks and all that type of stuff. You can even do some pin and pull type of stuff with Brock Bowers leading the way for Genty. And that just sounds beautiful to me.
He's a weapon. He and Genty both.
Yeah,
You can do a lot with both those guys.
absolutely.
And don't forget, Jacoby Myers is not a joke. He's not a superstar, but he's still
Yeah,
not bad. That team might actually not be a joke anymore
yeah,
with some of these additions
mhm,
that they've made. Yeah,
yeah,
I expect Genty will have a very good rookie year. He's not going to
mhm,
lead the league in rushing, but within a few years, he could be right there with B. John,
absolutely.
Saquon, anybody. I mean, I think he's got
Yeah,
that type of potential.
yeah,
Now
absolutely. And
shifting. Oh, I'm sorry. You had another thought
no,
on
no,
Genty.
yeah, I just wanted to throw out there that uh he played half of his high school career in Naples, Italy.
Yeah, he
Um,
did. Yeah.
he was
And
a
where else did
military
he
kid, if I'm not
play?
mistaken, and then he ended up moving over
Frisco,
to
Texas.
Frisco, yeah,
Yeah.
Frisco Lone Star High School to finish off his high school career. Gets an offer from Boise State, heads over there, has a couple good years. I love his faith as well. He ended up actually getting baptized by Coach Spencer Danielson, the head coach over
I
there at
knew they
Boise
were both
State.
Christians, but I didn't know
Yeah,
that Spencer Danielson baptized
yeah,
Genty.
and
That's
yeah,
awesome.
I
I
love
didn't
that
know that.
dynamic. I thought that was one of the coolest things that you get
Yeah.
baptized by your head coach.
I've heard both of them talk about
Yeah,
Jesus, but
exactly.
I didn't know that aspect.
Mhm.
That's really, I was already a big fan of Genty, and then I learned that, and I was like, oh, that's one more
Yeah,
reason for me
there
to
you
like
go.
him.
Exactly. He's not just some football player who wears pads and runs really well with the football.
Hmm.
He's also a very good person, and that's beyond
Oh, I heard
his.
him
That's
say
not
one
even just
time,
because he's of faith. He's just a straight up good dude,
yeah,
and his face shines through that. And I I really like that about him. So
I heard Genty
yeah,
say, and this will be the last thing I say on Genty, and then we'll go to our next guy. But I heard Genty say last year, I'm really an ambassador for Christ disguised as an All-American football player. And I
yep,
was like,
love that.
that's pretty awesome. I love that. So shifting to another position player, Tetro McMillan, I believe went number 8 overall to the
Yeah.
Panthers. I think he was the best pure receiver in this draft. I know we talked about
Hmm.
Travis Hunter, but if we're talking pure receiver, total
Yes.
package, size, speed, hands, route running, I would say it's Tetaroa. How do you feel about him going to the Panthers? You think this was a good move for them?
Yeah, I do. I'm a big fan of Tet McMillan. Bryce Young needs a lot of
So
help right
far,
now.
Diligent's been a big fan of everybody we've named, and that's
No,
okay.
yeah,
But so far,
it
I haven't named anybody that he's
yeah.
not a fan of.
We are still within the first 8 picks though,
Yeah,
we're
there's
talking
7 rounds.
we're talking
Yeah,
about the dudes.
guys that are easy to be fans of.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly. So yeah, I'm a big fan of this move. I think Bryce just needs so much help there with that offense, and
100%.
they've been so messy with how they've constructed this team. I think
That
they're
organization is
finally
really, they have failed Bryce Young up to this point,
absolutely,
and
yeah,
it's about time they start surrounding him with some weapons of this
yeah,
caliber.
and I think a lot of this, like it's not like it. This isn't just something where the organization failed the player. I think both have failed each other, and uh, I think now we're starting to get on a path here where we can
Mhm.
see a Bryce Young,
We saw it near the end of
ascension.
last season. We
We
start to
did,
see
and
him
he
turn that corner. So
exactly, and that was with the same guys that he had at the beginning of the season.
yeah,
So there was, I think they just let him settle in a little bit. I really like Dave Canales as a head coach. That was a
yeah.
risky move on their part, but I think that he's going to help Bryce Young continue to take steps forward. But yeah, Tet steps into the role of wide receiver one. Xavier Legette
Oh,
is, their
easily.
first round pick last year. I like Xavier Legette. He didn't have the best rookie year, but I think now you can kind of let these guys settle into what they do best. Xavier Legette,
Leggett can now play the position he should be, which is number
absolutely.
2 receiver because
Exactly.
McMillan's there.
Exactly. And I think when I look at this receiver room, I look at least the first two, just kind of disregard Thielen for a second, but I look at the Bucks receiver room, And I
Mhm.
see Tet,
Yeah.
obviously the running theme with Tet is, oh, that's, modern Mike
This
Evans.
is a young Mike Evans. Yeah.
Yeah, Leggett fits the Debo Samuel type of mold. A little bigger, a little bit, some differences here and there, but he's one of
Gets
the
built
best
like an
after the
outside
catch.
linebacker. Yeah,
Exactly.
he's a big.
He's so great after the catch. He runs like a running back. And Chris Godwin is
Mhm.
very much that type of player. Um, so I think that that's what they're going to try and do here. Um, and I think that's the reasonable thing to do. I find I
Yeah.
find it really odd how they built this roster, particularly on offense. It feels a little Patriots like, where you're just like, okay, if we get 15 freaking second or third stream caliber guys across the board at all these different positions, one of them
Forget
has to be
forget
good, and
having
then
superstars. Let's just
yeah,
get a
and
bunch of
then
third caliber. Yeah.
exactly. They're just like, yeah, here's a bunch of backup type of guys, and let's hope that one of these guys ends up being good, and then they
Let's just
don't.
hope this somehow works.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and normally that hasn't worked out for them. And I mean, like Thielen's the best example, honestly, of that actually working out to some degree. But even
Yeah.
still, he's not like you didn't want
Well,
him as
like
a
anybody, he's
two, you
getting
want him
older. When
as
he was
three.
with Minnesota and
Exactly.
he was younger, he was a pretty good receiver.
Absolutely.
And he's been
Absolutely.
okay in Carolina. He's just like everybody, he's not getting younger. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think
But
this is a great move for them to get Tetero. Bryce needs a weapon
yeah.
like this to help him out.
Yeah, exactly. They've worked on building up this offensive line. They've they definitely did the Patriots method with the running back room.
Yeah.
Just like, okay, one of these guys has to work out. Chuba Hubbard was good last year. I don't see the benefit of bringing in both Dowdle and drafting Trevor Etienne in the fourth. I don't get
That
that.
was a curious, yeah.
And Jonathan Brooks, I mean, he's probably gonna be out all year, but he's sitting
Sadly,
there
we
on
don't
the
know what his
he's gonna be
career
sitting on the
is going to
bench
look
the whole
like.
year because
Yeah.
he's hurt. But I don't know. I look at that, I'm like, okay,
I've
do
never
we need
been a
that many
big
bodies?
proponent of Chuba, but I will admit last year he was pretty darn good. He was a lot
He
better than I
was
was
pretty good.
expecting. So,
Yeah,
next guy I'll mention, Colston Loveland, number 10 to the Chicago Bears. I'll be honest, I was a little surprised he went that high. Not that I think
yeah,
he's not good. I think he's got the potential. But for a team that already had a pretty good tight end in Cole Kermit, and I think they could have used a running back more. I was expecting Omarion Hampton, who we'll get to later. I was expecting him more to go with this pick. So what do you think about Loveland not only going that high, but also being the first tight end off the board in this draft?
yeah. I what I found weird was, I mean, I agree. Loveland was taken a little bit earlier than I expected, and
Hmm.
I've been pretty neutral on Loveland this whole draft cycle, so I figured he was just like most people. I was like, okay, he's probably going to be like the Chargers pick, go get back with Harbaugh,
I can see that. Yeah.
but yeah, I found this really odd. But whenever they made that pick, my initial thought was, okay, they want to use him as an F. So they want to put him in the slot a lot. They want him to move around a lot, be flexible, kind of your Travis Kelsey esque type of guy, Brock Bowers, in terms of how you move him
Hmm.
around
I don't know if he's ever
positionally.
going to be as good as those two, but I can see the comparison. I can see the
In
thought
terms of the
process.
schematic aspect,
Yeah.
whereas Cole Kmet is a prototypical Y tight end, where he's in
Yes.
line. He's gonna be more of a vertical type of guy. So I found it really odd in context when they go and get Luther Burden later on, because Luther Burden is your slot. I feel
And
like
you've
there's
already
so many
got
mouths to feed.
Odunze and DJ Moore. So yeah,
And DJ Moore,
I agree with surrounding Caleb Williams with weapons, just like we talked about Bryce Young. But
I think you got too
those were
many
some
now.
curious
Yeah,
moves there. I
you
don't
got too
know.
many. I
I just
did
don't know
people say,
how some of them are gonna fit. Yeah.
yeah, I exactly. People always are like, you can never have too many weapons. I feel like you almost have too many weapons on this offense
I
because
get the logic of that, but then
yeah,
again, you might bury Luther Burden where he could start for another team. Now you got
yep.
an unhappy player that's not
And
getting opportunity.
there you go. And Luther Burden has vocally been snappy as of this last year, been snappy when he does not get his targets. You have a second year quarterback. The good thing about Caleb Williams is he has a big ego, and
That's a good thing.
he's very confident. And this, well, in
He
this
is.
particular context, I think that's actually really good because if he didn't have an ego, if he wasn't a very confident type of guy, if you have a Cooper Rush in that quarterback right here,
Yeah, you can't
you're
play
gonna get
quarterback at a high level without
you can't
having confidence.
if you have a Cooper Rush on this roster, you all these guys are going to be up in his ear, dude. Give me a target, give me a pass, give me a pass, give me a pass. You
Yeah,
have so many mouths to feed here, so it's good that Caleb Williams is the
can
type of
maybe negotiate
confident.
some of that. Yeah,
Exactly, because he can tell I know without a doubt he'll be like you'll get the ball when I give you the ball. That's what he's gonna
yeah.
say. And
Just
I actually
play the
think that's a
system
good thing in this
and yeah,
situation. So they do have the right quarterback for that. And hopefully hopefully this doesn't overwhelm. I don't think it will, but and then obviously the X factor here is you have Ben Johnson at head coach. He's going to scheme this offense up. He's going to get mouths fed, and everyone's going to walk away from this at least a better player. I think that this is a roster that, even though I don't fully agree with all these selections. I love Luther Burden, so I thought that was a great value selection. But in context to Colston, Loveland in the first
Mhm.
round, it was a little odd. But I think that this is going
I
to
would
be
have
a really
drafted one of
fruitful
those
offense.
guys. Maybe both of them
I
don't make
agree.
a lot of sense.
Exactly.
I could see
Exactly.
either one of them, but once I've got one, I'm looking at filling another need personally.
Yep. Because
So let's. I'm
you
sorry.
don't
Go ahead.
have just one or two guys, at receiver, and then like an okay tight end and a good running back or something. You have a running back by committee. You have a two tight end, set room there with Komet and Loveland,
And
and you
now
have a
you have
three-headed
three
monster at
pretty good
receiver.
receivers. Yeah.
So that's so much to feed, so many mouths to feed. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just say staying on the tight ends. Tyler Warren to the
Yeah.
Colts. My initial thought, and it sounds like you might would agree, if you're taking a tight end at number 10, why was it not Tyler Warren, Chicago? But
Mm-hmm.
that being said, Tyler Warren's now going to an Indianapolis team. I think Warren's got a lot of potential. If there's so many questions with the quarterback situation there,
Yeah.
I don't know if this is, if I'm Tyler Warren, I don't know if I'm all that excited about going to a team
Yeah.
where I don't know who's going to be throwing the ball to me. My opinion, when you look at how he played in college, I think whoever drafted him, and in this case it's the Colts, use him as your primary tight end, but don't be scared to think of him as a young Taysom Hill. He did a lot of other things in college.
Yeah.
Line him up, have him do some run pass option, move this guy around, do some trick plays. He could help their offense potentially in that regard. And it's not his fault that they got to figure out the quarterback situation. But how do you feel, I guess, about Tyler Warren as a prospect and fitting into that
Yeah.
Indianapolis offense?
I think what Indy's done building this receiver room, from wide receiver to tight end, is they've worked on getting high percentage type of guys in terms of that can fit with Anthony Richardson. Obviously, a number of these guys came like Michael Pittman was and Alec Pierce
He
were
was already
pre
there.
Anthony Richardson,
Yeah.
but these are big dudes with good hands. That are high percentage type of passes for Anthony Richardson. So even despite his accuracy woes, they're able to still reel in passes and make it easier on Anthony Richardson. So, and Tyler Warren fits that mold. So this is going to be your high
True.
percentage. This is going to be your most reliable type of guy, because of the routes that he's going to be able to run, the route tree that they'll be able to put him in. And yeah, I think that they're going to really scheme this up so that it can be a lot easier, a lot more simple passing lanes for Anthony Richardson to connect with his receivers. And and once you get a rhythm going, once you get 10-yard pass to Tyler Warren, 8-yard pass to Tyler Warren, and then let's try deep ball Michael Pittman. Okay, it didn't work. Back to
Said
within our
Tyler Ward
shorter
again.
route
Yeah.
tree. Then that's when you can build confidence. That's when you can get Anthony Richardson going, is that you can get these short high percentage passes going, and then these big long like long stepped broad step type of runners at the boundary in your receivers. That's when you can start to dial up the deep ball and get the vertical game going, and so on and so forth. So
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, who knows? But maybe Tyler Warren will be really good
Yeah.
to get Richardson on track. Maybe this
Yeah.
is kind of what he needs. Um, Next is a guy that I'm a big fan of, Emeka Egbuka, receiver out of Ohio State, drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I was really hoping he was going to be available when my Commanders picked because he's one that I wanted on their roster. What do you think about him going to Tampa Bay?
Yeah, no, very very high character guy again. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it was him and Travion Henderson that they put together some sort of uh uh kind of young adults type of
Like
thing
on
at Ohio
campus
State,
ministry
on
there at Ohio
campus
State. I think it was
ministry
them
type of
too.
ordeal.
Yeah, I think it
Um,
was those two.
so again, this is another faith centered uh type of receiver. And he's a good player as well. My
I
challenge
think he
with
had a
this
great
selection,
career. Yeah.
he did, and he was always the Batman to someone's Robin. So he was, Marvin Harrison
The
Jr.'s
Robin to somebody
Robin,
else's
or
Batman.
there
Yeah.
you go. Yeah, oops, yeah, that's what I
And
meant there.
some
So
people might even say, well, he's not that good. He was a senior last year, and their best receiver was a freshman.
Jeremiah Smith,
Okay,
yeah,
but Jeremiah Smith was also better than almost everybody in the country. But the fact that
absolutely,
Egbuka played with so many good players, I think he's
yeah.
NFL ready. I think he's had a lot of experience.
I think there's some untapped potential there too because he just
Oh yeah,
hasn't been the number one guy before,
that
and
doesn't
and
mean he
and
can't
whereas
be in the NFL.
yeah,
Yeah.
whereas in most circumstances he would be in
Oh
terms of
yeah.
college football. Um, my challenge with this selection though is I look at this receiver room, and this is someone who also really like Jalen McMillan, who now gets slid down the depth chart.
What
Uh,
happens to him now?
yeah,
Yeah.
obviously Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are both, getting older in their careers. They probably each
They're
have,
locked in right now, but they're getting
yeah,
older. And
they probably each have 2 or
Goblin's
3
coming
years
off of an
max
injury.
left.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
I think within the next 2 years, one or both of those guys could be gone, and that's when Emeka Egbuka really steps up into that receiver one role.
Yeah.
But my challenge again is they already have guys here down the depth chart. This is a nice looking depth chart at receiver. So I feel like you're almost renting, or you're pre-ordering your receiver. Yeah, like they're
They could have
pre-ordering
waited
the
and gotten another receiver in 2 or 3 years in the
yeah.
draft. They could have
That's
waited and got
that's what I'm
Jeremiah
saying
Smith
exactly.
potentially. Yeah.
I feel like you're pre-ordering your receiver and you're going to have, even as good as he could be, I think you're going to have minimal impact over the next 2 years from this
Yeah.
exact
And
selection
that's not a
because of how many
talent.
mouths there
That's
are.
not a thing on his talent. It's the depth that you
Exactly.
talked about. I
It's
think
it's
he could
because you
start
have all
right
these other
now for a
guys.
lot of teams, but he's
Of
not going to
course.
take over Mike Evans or Chris Godwin. This
Exactly.
is all the reasons I want him to come to Washington and be their number three receiver with Debo and Terry McLaurin. I was like,
Yeah.
plug him in right now. And then Debo's getting older too. Egbuka could take over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to recover from that. On draft night, I was like, "Are you serious?" I was hoping he'd be available.
Mhm. But no, yeah, I like this Bucks team. I think they've constructed it pretty well. I think there's still a couple of things here and there. O line still needs a little bit of work, but
Yeah,
Baker has had a really good career in Tampa,
since
and
he's
his
been in
ascension's
Tampa
been
Bay, he's
incredible.
been a different quarterback. Yeah,
He really has, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that you have all these weapons. It's such a well-run offense.
he needed the right fit and the right system,
Yeah,
and he's
he
found it.
did. He did,
Now
and he's found it, and yeah.
their backup long snapper and their third string punter could use some work, maybe, but that's those aren't the biggest concerns.
Yeah, they can work that out in training camp.
Yeah, those are things that just need some polishing. All
Hmm.
right, so now a guy that he fell a little further than I expected, Omarion Hampton to the
Yeah,
Chargers. I didn't think he was still going to be on the board, but when he was, I was like, surely they're going to take him at this point. They just
yeah,
signed Najee Harris in the offseason, so I don't think they expected to be taking a running back in the first round, but I think Hampton was just too good to pass up once he fell that far.
yeah.
This guy is a big, powerful dude,
Oh
pretty
yeah,
good speed. I think he'll be at first, he'll be worked into the offense. He'll split some time with Najee. by the end of the year, or at least by a second year, I think Hampton's taking over this backfield. But Najee
Oh yeah.
Harris is still solid. So, we may don't expect Hampton to be a superstar necessarily as a rookie, is all I'm saying. But long term, I think this guy's a he could
Yeah.
truthfully he would have been the number one running back in a lot of other drafts. And
100%.
truthfully, as much as I said about Genty a while ago, if they both stay healthy, they might have pretty similar careers. Hampton could be almost as good, if not as good, in the NFL. Genty's got certain other skills, but overall, when you factor in the size and the power, I don't necessarily think there's a huge gap between the two of them. How do you see that?
Um, yeah, I'm a huge advocate for Genty. So I agree. There's not a huge
I
gap in
am
between.
too,
I
but I
think,
got to be honest. I don't think there's
yeah,
a huge gap between these guys.
I think ultimately Genty in just a couple years, probably maybe even by the end of like this year or next year, I think Genty is going to be up there in the Christian McCaffrey realm. Omari and Hampton,
I
I
will
feel like
not be shocked.
is going to be that like Nick Chubb type of figure. Not exactly in term, not schematically is not what I'm saying.
No, but more than I
But
see what you mean.
in terms of figure, in terms of the hierarchy at running back, I feel like that's where they could be.
I kind of
So yeah,
see Hampton, and this is not as good a comparison. I like the Nick Chubb comparison actually better than what I'm about to say, but I kind of see him as a younger, more athletic James Conner. Just really solid running back,
yep.
strong running back, fights through tackles, but younger and more athletic. Like Connor's almost 30 and still really good. Hampton's like a younger version, I think, kind
Yeah.
of.
So my exact comp for Hampton was actually DeMarco Murray.
I can
The
see that too.
the long strides, very strong, very powerful. Um, Pretty similar in terms of creativity because they're not the most creative runners. They're a lot more like, okay, I'm gonna put my shoulder down and run over a guy,
Right.
but the thing is they're good at it, so that's why they can do that. So yeah, though I like Omari and Hampton in this offense a lot because it's 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 Jim Harbaugh. Like he knows
If
how
you
to
say you want to run the football, this is a good guy to
he
have on
knows
your
how to
roster.
make a team that can run the
Yeah.
football exactly. So
Well, and
I
Greg
think
Roman, the offensive coordinator,
yeah,
that's his thing too. So yeah,
he's trying to
Hampton's a
recreate the
great
Michigan
fit.
offense. He's trying to recreate the Michigan offense here, just at a pro level. Get
Yeah.
um get your wealth of running backs here. Omari Hampton's now going to be, a little bit different of a player, but he's going to be your Blake Corum and so on and so forth.
I think
And you
he's
build up
better,
this
but
O line.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, you build up this O line. You have I really like the Mekhi Becton addition.
Yeah.
And oh the size that they have on the right side of that offense
Yeah,
is
they drafted Joe Alt last year, so I
insane.
mean, yeah.
That is a wild amount of size on that offense. You get a 6'7" beast and then a 6'8" beast sitting next to each other. One's 360 pounds, one's
I was gonna say it's
320
not just the
pounds.
height; it's they're big dudes
Yeah,
too.
these
Yeah.
are big boys who can move a pile. And then on the left side of that, you have Rashawn Slater at left tackle, who is one of the
Mhm.
best tackles in the league. Zion Johnson and Bradley Bozeman are a little bit more question marks. Hopefully, we get a little bit more of an ascension from Zion Johnson. They've been waiting on that for years, but regardless, I like what they did. Bring in Omari and Hampton. I think that this is going to ultimately be really, we know the identity of this offense. There's no question, and I
Yeah.
like offenses that can be like, okay, the world is falling. We're having a really bad game. Our quarterback just threw a pick six or something like that. We're down 17 points. Okay, what are we good at? And obviously if you're down a couple, you're down a little bit, that's not necessarily
Yeah.
running territory, but this is the
But
offense
but don't forget
that
they've got Justin Herbert, so they've got a
this,
passing
yeah,
attack too.
this is offense. This is the type of offense that you can be like, okay, let's get some,
Let's build a
let's get back to what
lead
we're
and
good at.
then feed
Let's get back to
O'Mary
what
and
we're good at.
Hampton. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So they have an identity here. They know what they're good at. They know what, things aren't working out. What do we do? And good offenses
Yeah.
have that. Like the Dallas Cowboys, you start
I
throwing at the
thought you said
ceiling.
good offenses. What are you doing talking about the Dallas Cowboys, man?
Oh
Come on.
gosh. Uh yeah, and that's kind of
My
the,
producing partner concurs.
oh, does he? Oh no.
Yes, he just
Okay.
yelled amen. Hey.
But yeah, so on and so forth. These teams need an identity, and
Oh
that's what you
yeah.
get here with
That's what
this
they're
Amari Hampton
building.
edition. So
Now the next guy, and I'll try to rapid fire these next few. Otherwise, we really could be here for 7 hours. That is possible. How do you feel about the Giants trading back up into the first round
mm,
to grab Jackson Dart? Do you think he was worth the? Obviously, it's a long term investment. Russell Wilson's going to be their starter
yeah,
at least for the beginning of this year,
yeah.
possibly the whole year. So it's pretty good. Jackson doesn't have the pressure to start right away. Do you
Mhm.
think he's worth a long term investment for them to trade back up into the first round?
I don't honestly. I think
Me
a lot of
too.
this.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think a lot of this is pressure because Joe Shane and Brian Dabble, the GM and head coach, just
They
got
know
told
they're under pressure.
they just got told that your job's on the line. Like it's now or never. So I think what they're hoping is Russell Wilson starts for a couple games, and then Jackson Dart gets thrown in there, and then he's the
Starts to
second
turn
coming of
things
Patrick
around. Yeah.
Mahomes.
Yeah.
And that's what their
Well,
that's what their hope is. So I just don't. I feel like this is more of a pressure back against the wall type of move. And
mhm.
my challenge with this is Jackson Dart's not this plug and play guy. And I also mean that in the sense that he's not going to be the plug and play guy 6 weeks into the season when you're 3-3 and you need a
I don't think
spark.
so either. Yeah.
So especially since we're talking about an Ole Miss quarterback, Tennessee quarterbacks have the same stigma. The way that Josh Heupel and then Ole Miss's very own Lane Kiffin, uh,
Mm.
the way that they run their offense um, is very it's very college. That's what it is. It's very college like. It's not pro level. When I say
Yeah.
that, I mean you're going through one read, you're going through two read, and either you're getting rid of the ball or you're running as a quarterback.
So is
That is not
Dart a system quarterback that succeeded in that
exactly.
system?
That's a
Is he
question
going
mark.
to adapt?
Exactly.
And we'll have to
That's
see.
not. Yeah, and that 1-2 pass or run is not an NFL style offense. Usually, you want guys that can get to their third read. You're not getting that with Jackson Dart. And
He's gonna.
what you
I
need
will say
is
he's gonna have to learn to get there. I'm
he
not saying
will.
he
He will.
can't, and I know it's not what you're
Yeah,
saying either. But he's gonna have to learn it.
but that's in that particular context. That's a guy that sits the entire year. Um, I don't think
And
they're
I
going to
think he
sit the entire
should.
year, but they won't because
Yeah.
jobs are on the line. And
Jobs on the line. If they think that they have a chance to
yeah,
salvage the season with him, that's what they're
exactly.
going to probably do.
Yeah.
I think the young man's got potential, but I concur with everything you're saying.
Hmm.
I could see him possibly being a decent starting quarterback.
Yeah.
I could also see him maybe bouncing around and taking 6 or 7 years and doing like
Yeah.
Sam Darnold and eventually becoming a starter.
Exactly. Yeah, that
Or he
could
could
very
be a
well be the
solid
case.
career backup. I don't. There's too much I don't know. I'm not
Yeah.
definitive on any of it with him.
Yeah, and I'll add I brought up the Mahomes thing. Like that's what they're really banking on, like hoping. Obviously, every team wants a
I was
Mahomes
just say,
Patrick
who
Mahomes,
wouldn't want that? So
but
yeah,
Patrick Mahomes was a little similar coming out of Texas Tech. Really sloppy, really he was not this buttoned up prospect that some people, but imagine him to be. He was a first round pick, so was Jackson Dart.
yeah,
But Mahomes was a 1-2 pass or run type of guy. And he could, don't get me wrong, we all knew the arm strength he had. We all knew, there was potential there, but it was a really messy type of prospect. And the thing is, you had Andy Reid at head coach. You didn't have jobs on the line. You had
yeah.
Alex Smith at
He played
quarterback, who at
behind
the
Alex
time was
Smith at
playing really
first.
well.
Yeah,
Because Alex Smith's like last year in KC, or second to last year, something like that. He was an MVP type of finalist. He was
yeah.
playing at a high level. If I'm not mistaken, they went 12-4, 13-3 within the last couple years of Alex Smith's KC career. So you were able to be patient. You didn't have to throw him into the fire, and you could let Mahomes sit behind Alex Smith his whole
Mhm.
rookie season. He comes in the last game of the season when they already have a playoff spot
Yeah.
locked in. They already have their seating locked in. They sit their guys. They let Patrick Mahomes get a chance. Jackson Dart's not going to get that chance, and that's just because
No,
jobs are on the line. People, this team's going to probably be sitting at 2-4, something like that.
it
At
wouldn't be
six
shocking.
games into the season,
Yeah.
and they're going to be like, "Well, the New York Giants fans need a spark. They want energy. We need to protect our jobs. We need to throw this kid out there and see if he can save our jobs."
And
And
they
that's what's
might
going to
do that
happen.
and still both get fired. I'm not wishing
And they
anything bad on
probably,
anybody. I'm
I
just saying,
honestly,
who
honestly,
knows?
I have I'm a bit of a realist myself. I'm not I'm not the optimist that I wish I was, but being a realist, I
Are
really
you
feel like
positive
this.
about that?
Yeah, I really feel like this team's going to be 2-4, and that's exactly what's going to happen.
Maybe
Jackson Dart's going
0
to
and
get thrown
6.
out
Yeah.
there, and some jobs are going to be lost because of it.
Well, for the sake of time, I'm gonna throw out three running backs to you. They were all taken in the second round.
All right.
I would have been good with the Commanders taking any of these guys. None of them went to the Commanders. So two Ohio State teammates.
Yep.
Sean Judkins to the Browns. Trevion Henderson to the Patriots. Robert Harvey, better known as RJ Harvey, to the
Yep.
Denver Broncos. I'm pretty big fans of all of them. Trevion, I'm a
Yeah.
huge fan of. Harvey, I think he's awesome. I think he's got a lot of potential. I think Quinshon's in a good spot there with Cleveland because they like
Yep.
those grinded out running backs. I think all three of the I'll say this kind of blanket and then you kind of tell me what you think. I think all three of those guys are in really good positions.
Mhm.
Trevion may start out in a committee with Rahamondre. It's not going to be that hard for Trevion to overtake, and he's got a different skill set. I think Trevion's got a ton of potential. RJ Harvey, now Denver did just sign J.K. Dobbins, which is good for their offense. So RJ Harvey may split some time, probably will, probably should. But I think RJ Harvey's got a ton of potential. Quinchon could overtake Cleveland's backfield pretty early just because
Yeah.
of the personnel there. I think all three of those guys probably pretty good as rookies, and barring season-ending injuries, career-ending injuries, I think could all three have pretty good careers. I'm probably
Yeah.
the highest on Trevion of the three, just
Hmm.
overall skill set, pass blocking, pass receiving, vision, speed, everything. But I think they've all got a lot of potential. What are your thoughts on those three?
No, yeah, I'm Travion Henderson was my highest graded of the bunch.
Yeah,
Of the three, Quinshon Judkins followed shortly behind that, and RJ Harvey a little bit behind that. I really like Travion Henderson in New England. I think what they're going to end up doing is probably using Ramondre as the Quinshon Judkins and letting Travion play very authentically to his role as
I
your
mean, they've already
long
proved he
distance
proved
guy,
he
your
could do it
explosive
in
guy.
college. So
Yeah.
using the same way, why
Yeah.
not?
Exactly. And Travion can be your third down running back. So I like that fit. I think that he's going to have a lot of success there. And I also like what that is for Drake May in New England. So I think that Travion can be
Another young
even
quarterback that needs
exactly,
weapons, and he's got another good one.
exactly. And you have and Travion's very good as a receiver. I think that they're going to use that a lot with the relationship
They
between him and
definitely
Drake
should.
May.
And he and Drake May are both
Yeah,
young guys with a lot of potential.
absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
And Judkins, I think that Judkins is going to pretty quickly become a 1,000 plus yard runner.
he's a
I
great
it
fit for that Cleveland
Yeah,
offense.
I feel like he's gonna hit the ground running literally. And
Yes,
from day one, I think that he's gonna have a lot of success. And
I don't
uh,
see why he wouldn't.
I don't see
I
why he
mean,
wouldn't. There's and this is that's the depth chart in Cleveland's actually kind of nice behind him with Jerome Ford and
and
Dylan
they drafted
Sampson.
Dylan Sampson.
Yep, exactly. So I think ultimately what they're going to try and do is yet again recreate the Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins
And they can do
duo.
that with
And
Sampson. Yeah.
And Sam, because literally leading up to the draft, every single person and their mama was like, if you don't get Travion Henderson, Dylan Sampson's like the next best in that
He's got
term
that
of.
speed and
And
explosion.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're the same type of player, the same type of mold of a player. You just can get Dylan Sampson at more of a, affordable spot in the draft. As for RJ Harvey, I like that role for him as well. I think him and J.K. Dobbins are going to be a really good duo. Audric Estime gets a little lost in that sometimes. I'm
Yeah, he's
curious
got
what
some
they.
potential, but I don't know what's going to
Yeah,
happen with him now. That he may not
yeah.
have
I'm exactly. He could
much
be someone
opportunity
that
with those two guys.
he could be someone that by week 5 he's traded off for a 5th round draft pick to someone who
And
needs a
that
running
might be a
back.
good move because they've got
It might be.
McLaughlin. They
Yeah.
may be better off getting
Yep.
a 4th or 5th round pick.
But yeah, ultimately though, I think the thing that RJ Harvey has going for him is he has a very important figure in the NFL backing him, and that's Sean Payton. Sean Payton is slammed like fist to table for his running backs before. We saw that with Reggie Bush and
I
how
was about to
he
say,
was
look
so
at the
vigilant
history.
about moving up for him.
Reggie
And we've seen
Bush,
that Kamara, even
Kamara.
Kamara, he was very big. He was very big on getting him. And RJ Harvey, through the grapevine, we've heard that
Because Harvey got drafted higher than a lot of people expected,
he
and
went second
Sean
round.
Payton really wanted him, or he
Yeah,
wouldn't. Yeah,
exactly. So you don't draft a guy, a second round draft pick for a running back is
that's
kind of
a high. That's high draft
that's high.
capital.
That's high
Yeah,
draft capital. You get, you're typically going to get 6 first round type of receivers every year. For
yeah.
the equivalent to that is your second round running
If you get
backs
a second,
for at the running
yes,
back position. So that's what this is, and he's going to probably be a starter there for his entire the entirety of his 4 years, and we'll see what that relationship looks like with J.K. Dobbins initially. But by the end of this
yeah.
year, he'll be the
And
guy,
they only
and
signed Dobbins to a 1 year deal, so I think it's a
he
good
did.
move for this year. But Harvey
Yeah,
has every opportunity to be the future of that backfield. And I mean, I'm not
absolutely.
saying he's a little different type player than Reggie Bush, but if Peyton uses him similarly, we could see
I think he
similar
will. Yeah,
success.
yeah. He's
Couple
gonna try and put him in that role of
and
what
why
he did with
and why not? I mean,
Bush.
why
Yeah,
wouldn't you do that? Just a few other guys, and then we will begin to land the plane. Two other kind of bruiser type running backs: Caleb Johnson to the Pittsburgh Steelers, Cam Skatabo to the New York Giants. I'll say I think Caleb Johnson to Pittsburgh, very good fit
yeah,
stylistically as far as his running style, as far as what that offense usually looks like. I think he'll plug right in. Better version of Najee Harris, basically. I think he's hits
yeah.
the ground right away.
You're never gonna guess my comp.
Skatabo,
You're never gonna guess my comp for
Najee
Caleb Johnson.
Harris.
No, actually, but close. Le'Veon Bell,
um,
actually. Le'Veon
who?
Bell. Le'Veon Bell.
Oh no, I
So
can see that
yeah, you
completely.
see it a lot, and he's a lot slower than Le'Veon Bell was. I think Le'Veon ran like 4.49. Caleb Johnson ran a really poor 4.57. Uh, but you're gonna
I
get
think people get too carried away on those 40 times sometimes
they
though.
don't.
Four five
Yeah,
seven is not
especially the
that.
Steelers don't care. The
If
Steelers
you're a
could care
big strong
less.
runner, 4.57 is nothing to be scared of.
But it astounds me at times. So Caleb Johnson runs with a very interesting pace, like his steps, his strides, his the way he's kind of his hips are oily and suspension like. And it is every time I flip on a piece of film on Caleb Johnson, I'm like, that is his running style is Le'Veon Bell. So
There's
you're
Le'Veon
just
Bell.
looking at, and the way I do player comps is stylistically. So I'm not saying that he's gonna be Le'Veon Bell. He probably won't. Very unlikely that he is, honestly. But but stylistically, very, very similar running style, good
I can
receiver.
definitely see that.
Yeah.
And then Skatabo, I mean, that New York backfield's kind of wide open. Devin Singletary lost his
Yep.
job to Tyrone Tracy last year. Tracy had a lot of fumbles. You'll probably see a committee or a split at first, but Skatabo, I'm not saying he will, but he could take over that backfield.
Yeah. Yeah. I think within the first 2 years he'll be RB1. I don't know about this year. We'll see. I think this year is going to be very like spread the wealth type of a running back room.
Probably so.
And yeah. So but yeah, Cam Scatterbo is a good player. So most people know that especially if you watch the Texas Arizona State playoff game, just the way he put
Oh
his heart on the
gosh,
line
yeah,
was remarkable. And I think that the Giants need that. They need players that are going to commit to what they're trying to accomplish. They need guys that are going to go out there and play with tenacity, play with ferocity, and that's Cam Scatterbo. And I think that he's going
yeah.
to be able to go out there and have a decent rookie year. So
He's an aggressive guy with a lot of energy and just wants to be on that football field, and you can see that in the way that he runs. And he's got some pretty good receiving skills. A lot of times, guys
yeah,
that run like that and play like that are just power guys, and he
yeah,
mostly is, but he can catch the football. He threw a touchdown
yeah.
pass in that Texas playoff game. Like,
He
he's
did.
a pretty
Maybe he should
versatile
play
weapon.
quarterback. Hey,
So,
if Jackson Dart doesn't
you know
work
what?
out,
If
you got your
Jackson
guy.
Dart doesn't work out, we'll just do some run
Yeah.
pass option all day
Boom.
long.
Okay, and that'll secure you a job. If you're
Yeah.
Brian Dabble and you make your fourth round running back somehow become your QB1,
Right.
that'll
If
get
that
you a
works
10-year
out for you,
contract.
people are going to give you all kinds of,
Boom.
you're going to get all kind of contract extension.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there's several other guys we could talk about. Maybe we'll do another episode one day about what the heck is going to happen with Shadur Sanders. That would
Yeah.
take too long if we jump into that now. So we'll go ahead and begin to land the plane. Any final thoughts you have on, or anybody else you wanted to mention, Diligent?
uh man, I mean, not particularly.
There's plenty of other guys we could talk about,
I
but then again, we would
yeah,
be here all day.
we would. But I'll throw out there that looking a little ahead, but this quarterback class was not, that great. We know that, but
True.
I think that this next year's class, man, at quarterback, is going to be really exciting. So I think there's
Especially
going to
if
be a lot
Arch
of stars.
Manning commits, and we don't know if he will or not.
I
But
think
even
if
without
Arch,
him,
yeah, if he's as good as advertised, which honestly I think he is,
I
I
think
ever
probably
then he will declare. You would have to be crazy not to at that point, because if he's
it's
as
just
good as
hard to
advertised,
say. I hadn't seen him
he's a
play
first
enough
overall pick.
yet, but yeah,
Exactly. But man,
yeah.
this
There's
quarterback class is
him,
gonna be
Drew
really nice.
Aller, Garrett
Garrett
Nussmeier.
Nussmeyer,
I'm gonna
who I
say it
went to
right
high school
now.
with.
I don't know how this guy's career will be, but the one I'm a big fan of. It shouldn't be surprised if you know the style of quarterbacks I like.
Klubnik?
Lenore Sellers,
There you go.
South
Okay, yeah.
Carolina,
Yeah.
big,
Lenore
fast,
Sellers,
dual threat. I like him a
yeah.
lot.
Caleb Klubnik,
Caleb, I
just so
forgot
many,
about
and
Klubnik. Yeah,
there's names that I'm gonna hang up and I'm gonna be like, man, I can't believe I didn't mention him, because it is a long list. This is a class the quarterback class is gonna be as good, potentially as good as 2024's class, which is a high
we'll
bar to
wait and
set.
see. That's a high
We'll
bar.
wait
We'll
and
wait and
see. We'll
see,
wait and
but you may
see.
not be
But
wrong.
I I may not be wrong, and I'm pretty neutral. Like I said, I'm a realist, so I'm pretty neutral on
Yeah,
that. But this next class is going to be really nice. There's a lot
time will
of
tell, but
weapons in
you
there
may be
at the
right
quarterback
there.
position.
All
But
right.
yeah,
Well,
so
we'll go ahead and land the plane there. Thank you all for everybody who joined us. I hope you did enjoy the episode. If you did, please show that by clicking the like button. And if you've not already done so, please subscribe to the channel. It will help enable me to continue to bring you more of this type of content as well as many other types. So, Diligent, thank you so much for stopping by, man. Great to finally have you on the channel.
yeah.
Hope it won't be the last time. We'll work
Mhm.
something out and come back on and talk about Kate Klubnik or Lenore Sellers or whatever else crosses our minds. So, anyway, for Diligent Jewett, I am Jared Johnson, the Jared J. Thank you all so much for stopping by. Hope y'all have a great week, and hope I'll see you again real soon.